In a country gripped by violence against women, a new femicide detective squad seeks to make the S pay. Warning: this story contains graphic details and imagery. Angelis stood in silent horror. She couldn't even scream. Instantly she recognized the lifeless body lying in the dust. Black leggings, a white blouse, plaid coat, the same outfit her 13-year-old daughter Melanie was wearing when she left home that morning. Her little face, her body were covered with dirt, like they had just tossed her out, says Angelis, her anguish welling up in tears. That's how she was, her little feet bent outwards. Just over an hour earlier, Melanie had taken her younger sister Fatima to primary school, a 5-minute walk from their home in Ixtapaluca, on the impoverished fringes of Mexico City. When Melanie failed to come back on time, Angelis began frantically searching the streets. Angelis suspects someone in her neighborhood knows what happened to Melanie. But few here talk to the police. Growing more desperate as the minutes ticked by, Angelis asked a friend to post Melanie's photo on a neighborhood Facebook group, with a plea to help find her daughter. Within minutes, the girl's body was dumped in a vacant lot just meters from the primary school gate. It was shocking, says Angelis. Her clothes had been torn. She had been raped. The brutality of Melanie's is impossible for Angelis to comprehend. She carries the memory of that morning last December like a crushing weight. But in Mexico, such crimes are on the rise. It's estimated 10 women are dead in Mexico every day. Last year, even as the country's notoriously high homicide rate fell, the number of femicides, the of women and girls because of their gender, continued its steady rise. Mexico recorded 1,004 femicides in 2021, a grim toll that has more than doubled since 2015, when the country first started tracking the statistic. A mural depicting a woman with flowers in Mexico. Women dressed as Katrina's protest against femicide in Mexico City last November. Women carry crosses with names of femicide victims in Mexico City last November. A woman walks past a mural in Mexico. A woman holds a placard reading "I believe you, Alexa," during a protest in Mexico City. Women's rights advocates say the response to this live violence against women is too often impunity and indifference from authorities. Many cases of femicide go unsolved, shelved by a disinterested and overburdened police force already battling an epidemic of violent crime unleashed by a long-running war on the drug cartels. I feel so much helplessness and frustration. Because in this country, if you don't have money, nothing gets done. Some had hoped that with the election of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, a left-winger who rose to the presidency in 2018 on a platform of social change, the country might muster the political will to find a solution. But critics say he's been reluctant to acknowledge the scale of the femicide problem. In recent years, the simmering outrage of Mexican women has boiled over. In 2019, the alleged rape of a young girl by 4 police officers in Ixtapaluca sparked what became known as the Glitter Revolution. In March 2020, after a spate of horrific femicides, thousands of Mexican women vented their anger in the streets of Mexico City. A pink cross marks the spot where Melanie's body was found, a symbol used throughout Mexico to denote a femicide. Again, in late 2021, women massed in the capital, many carrying crosses painted in purple and pink, bearing the names of sisters, daughters and mothers by violent men. Ingrid Sarasabar, the secretary for women in Mexico City, says people were fed up. They carried banners related to unsolved cases categorized as suicides, which turned out to be femicides, and where there had been no meaningful action taken by the authorities. A pink cross now marks the spot where Melanie's body was abandoned, connecting her to thousands of others over the decades. Nowhere in the country is the issue more acute than in Mexico State, a region skirting the edge of Mexico City, where Angelis lives with her daughters, Fatima and Julia. Crime figures say it's the most dangerous place in Mexico to be female. More women are here than anywhere else in the country, and the victims are getting younger. A wall of silence. At Angelis's hillside home, a local police officer walks up to her front gate. "I feel for you, I'm holding you in my heart," says the cop, an open palm held to his chest. "It's just a welfare check." Soon he departs. It's little comfort to Angelis, who wants the police to catch them. Inside the house, Melanie's pink school bag still hangs on the wall. Fatima and Julia are lying on the floor coloring in with pencils. Beyond these walls, their older sisters remains at large, possibly still in the neighborhood. "I'm filled with fear. I don't leave my house," Angelis says. "If I leave, I either have to take my daughters with me or leave them alone in the house. I'm afraid to go out without them." It's been nearly a month since Angelis heard from the detectives working on Melanie's case. She is certain someone must have seen something the day Melanie was. How could they not? Her body was left beside a public road in broad daylight. They made no attempt to conceal it. Such brazen acts of cruelty are not uncommon with femicides. Perpetrators are known to parade their impunity by leaving their victims in public places. Experts say it's calculated to both shame the female victim and send a warning to others. The investigation of Melanie's has so far been met with a wall of silence. No one wants to talk. "Out of fear," says Angelis. "Because the person lives here. Because it's someone from here, it's a very small area." Angelis lights a candle for her daughter Melanie in her home in Ixtapaluca, Mexico. Angelis holds a portrait of Melanie. Images of Melanie as a child hang on Angelis' wall. A photo of Melanie on the wall. With bitter resignation, she accepts that her daughters may never be brought to justice. "The only thing I can say is that we're in Mexico, and there is a lot of impunity," she says. "It's impossible that they are going to catch him, the police aren't doing their job." Last year, Mexico State's criminal investigators were singled out in a scathing Amnesty International report into femicide. It found crime scenes had been contaminated and police had mishandled evidence. The apathy and incompetence of the police meant that in some cases, families were left to investigate the themselves. Ingrid Sarasabar says police failings have only fueled a sense of impunity for the perpetrators of femicide. "You send a message that women are not worthy, so you can do whatever you want." Of the situation in Mexico City, she says, "We are working on that." The femicide unit. At a residential complex in Lomas Bonita, on the outskirts of Mexico City, a police unit is assembling at the scene of an attempted femicide to piece together what happened inside the blood-spattered apartment. "We will inspect the scene, collect evidence and send it to the lab to be examined," says Jorge Polico, the detective in charge, as officers enter the room. They are detectives from Mexico City's first femicide unit, formed 2 years ago to turn back the tide of violent crimes against women in the capital. Back in the city's sprawling police headquarters, known as the bunker, I meet the woman running the team. Sayuri Herrera was an unlikely pick to head up the femicide unit. Her background is in activism and human rights law, not policing. But when the police are part of the problem, an outsider's perspective can prove a valuable asset. "The mothers and the students I was working with, who I marched with demanding justice, we thought this should be our prosecutor's office," Sayuri says. "That we should commit ourselves to this office, that we should take back our institutions." One of her first actions in the job was to re-examine hundreds of cases where women's violent had been classified as suicides. Sayuri Herrera was an activist and human rights lawyer before being selected to lead Mexico City's femicide unit. Many perpetrators of femicide, expecting old-school homicide detectives to believe them, cover up their crimes by claiming their female victims committed suicide. They claim the women in accidental fires, jumped out of windows, or threw themselves off tall buildings. Too often they are believed. It's unimaginable what they are willing to say and do to get away with it, Sayuri says. They are very creative in designing scenes of suicide to blame women. And they bet that the police are going to believe them, because society has somehow always proved them right about that. Sayuri's review found evidence police were too